uh, this this chapter is basically we are talking about Narada Muni's instructions to Prachetas. So last week we saw that Prachetas, they after the meditation when they came back on the land, they were totally saw that it was all full of trees, and they were all annoyed because seeing the trees, and they started burning the trees. And it was said that Brahmaji came and to pacify them, and then they actually the gave them the daughter of trees, Marisha, to marriage, and on from that marriage, Daksha was born again, and that's what we heard last week. So today we will hear the Prachetas, basically instructions from Nardamuni on to the Prachetas. So before we start, we will do the Dhyana Shloka. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshuranmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha चैतन्य श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदाङ्गितं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखावितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपतु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यो च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. So today we'll read the fourth canto, 31st chapter, first verse. Maitreya uvacha tata utpanna vigyana आशव अदोक्षज भाषितं स्मरन्त आत्मजे भार्यां विसृज्य pravrjan grahat. So the translation goes like this. The great saint Maitreya continued after that the Prachetas lived at home for thousands of years and developed perfect knowledge and spiritual consciousness. At last, they remembered the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and left home, putting their wife in charge of their perfect son. So, this is actually Srila Prabhupada is saying that after the Prachetas they had finished their penances, they were blessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Lord blessed them by telling that after finishing their family life, they would return home back to Godhead in due course of time. And after finishing their family life, which lasted for thousands of years according to the calculation of the demigods, the Prachetas decided to leave home, putting their wife in charge of their son named Daksha. This is the Vedic civilization process. So normally Grahastha ashram is a most very ashrama means, what is the definition of ashrama is connection with the God. So Grahastha ashram is one of the most important ashrama, and in this actually it is supporting the both all the three ashramas are supported by the Grahastha ashrama. So it's a very important ashrama. But one has to be a devotee of Krishna, and so that he is a otherwise one may become a grahamedi, who becomes actually only the wife and the children are only in the center, but not Krishna in the center. So Prabhupada also stated in this verse, he says that the major flaw in this current civilization is that the intermixing of boys and girls in the college to enjoy sex life. And that's why we have Varnashankara, born of undesirable fathers and mother. So consequently, the whole society, whole world is actually in chaos. So that's what Prabhupada says, that one must practice penances and austerity in the student life. He cannot understand the existence of God without realizing Krishna. One cannot make his life perfect. So, and secondly, one has to give the comfortable life which is absolutely necessary for human beings. And as advised by Prahlad Maharaj, Hitvata Patam Grahavanda Kupam. To finish materialistic way of life, one should leave this comfortable home life, which simply means killing the soul. Atma Patam, Atma Patam. So that's what actually here it is said. Text 2. The Prachetas went to the seashore in the west where the great liberated sage Jajali was residing. After perfecting the spiritual knowledge by which one becomes equal towards living entity, the Prachetas became perfect in Krishna consciousness. Here Srila Prabhupada wants to say one has to cultivate the knowledge of absolute truth by pursuing studies in the Vedas and undergoing severe austerity and penances. So these Prachetas, they executed this function very properly. And Prabhupada also quotes the words, what they achieved by this is Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labate Param. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, one attains pure devotional service. One point actually it came, actually Prabhupada had quoted this verse in the before he ended his life. That is on the last day evening he quoted this verse, and it's a very nice statement. I would like to say that it is said that Prabhupada is saying that he was saying that the scientists, they cannot understand that life is coming after life, from life. They cannot understand Bhagavad Gita. They cannot understand this verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, Na Shochati Na Kankshati. But he said he is experiencing happiness from within. And even though the body is completely destroyed, he is in ecstasy. I am that Brahma Bhuta personality. That's what Prabhupada has said. So when one comes, one actually becomes actually advanced, spiritually advanced, he will not see any difference between one living entity and another. This platform can be attained only by determination. So he does not make distinction between human being and animals. Another verse is quoted by Srila Prabhupada in the same verse. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hasini Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal visions a learned, great Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog eater, outcast. So that's what actually Prabhupada wants to say, that a person sees equally in spiritual basis. A learned person, a devotee, wants to see everyone developed in Krishna consciousness. So second para where he said that these Prachetas, they went to a perfect place because Jalajali, he attained mukti in that place. So Prabhupada states that one desiring perfection or liberation should associate with person who is already liberated. This is called Sadhu Sangha, association. Last week, if you all remember, that this same verse was quoted, and the same verse is quoted in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:18-13 also. Tulyama lavenapi na swargam na punarbhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya martyanam kim utashishaha. Even a moment's association with pure devotee cannot be compared to being transferred to heavenly planet or even merging into Brahman effulgence in complete liberation. For living entities who are destined to give up the body and die, association with the devotees is the highest benediction. Srila Prabhupada, in one of the quotes, he says that association with devotee means association with the Lord. Text 3, translation. After practicing the yogasana for mystic yoga, the Prachetas managed to control their life air, mind, words and external vision. Thus by pranayama process, they were completely relieved of material attachment. By remaining perpendicular, they could concentrate their mind on the uppermost Brahman. While they were practicing this pranayama, the great sage Narada, who is worshipped with both by demons and by demigods, came to see them. So here Prabhupada states that the absolute truth can be realized in three phases, which we also saw we saw impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, as these Prachetas were instructed by Lord Shiva, they focused their mind on Shyam Sundara form, and the personal future of the Supreme Brahman is the ultimate goal and the last word in transcendence. And secondly, in this para, he says, as we have seen in the translation, that Narada Muni, he can go, he can travel anywhere, even the demons and the demigods. He is equally respected by all of them. And for Narada Muni, the door of every house is open. So Prabhupada concludes saying that a Vaishnava should be just like Narada Muni, completely independent and unbiased. Text 4. As soon as the Prachetas saw that the great sage Narada had appeared, they immediately got up even from their asanas. As required, they immediately offered obeisances. As required, they immediately offered obeisances and worshipped him. When they saw that Narada Muni was properly seated, they began to ask him questions. Prabhupada states that this is the right etiquette displayed by Prachetas. We all know the story of Romaharshana, where he was sitting in the Vyasasana. Romaharshana was sitting in the Vyasasana. He foolishly thought it is greater than the Lord. Therefore, he did not get down from the seat and bow down to the Lord. And we know the consequence, what happened to it. He was killed by Balrama. Text 5. So we should give honor to whenever as a person is coming, a senior devotee or a Guru Maharaj is coming, even though we are sitting in a Vyasasana, we should get up and give obeisances or respect to them. Text 5. All the Prachetas began to address the great sage Narada. O great sage, O Brahmana, we hope you met with no disturbances while coming here. It is due to our great fortune that we are now able to see you. By the traveling of the sun, people are relieved from the fear of darkness of night, of fear brought about by the thieves and rogues. Similarly, your traveling is like the sun, for you drive away all kinds of fear. Prabhupada in this purport Usha, one nimisam. So, Prabhupada in the purport, he's saying that even in a city like New York, people are afraid of going out in the darkness. So, everyone is afraid of what? Because of the rogues and thieves who are there in the night time, they will wander. So, but as soon as the sun rises, everyone is relieved. Everyone is afraid of danger at everyone. Padam padam vipadamna tesham. When one meets Narada Muni or his representative, a spiritual master, one is freed from all anxiety brought about by ignorance. Text 6. O Master, may we inform you that because of our being overly attached to family affairs, we almost forgot the instruction we received from Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. Prabhupada in the purport, he says, this concession for sense enjoyment, it has to be controlled. Whereas in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.10, Kamasya Nendriya Preeti, one has to become a Goswami, control his senses. One should not simply use his senses for sense gratification. Rather, he should be employed in as required for maintaining the body and the soul. That's what Shrupa Goswami is recommending. Anasaktisya Vishayan Yathartham Upayunjataha. So one should not be attached to the sense object, but should accept sense enjoyment as much as required and no more. If one wishes to enjoy the senses more than required, he becomes attached, which means bondage. All the Prachetas admitted their fault in remaining in the household life. That's what actually we are all in the household life, most of us. So we should be very careful. For that, what we should do is we should be in constant touch of devotees and hear discourses of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So with this forum, we are using it for that. Text 7. Dear Master, kindly enlighten us in transcendental knowledge, which may act as a torchlight by which we may cross the dark essence of material existence. So Prachetas, they were simply interested in crossing the ocean of nations. So practically everyone should be interested in like that only. Whenever we meet as saintly persons, we normally go and approach for getting blessings to live happily in this material world. That should not be the case. That's what Srila Prabhupada wants to state, that a householder receive a saintly person to get their blessings, but the real aim is to become happy. What is the real aim? Is to become happy in this material world. Asking for material benefaction is not recommended in the Shastras. That's what in Bhagavad Gita 4:34 says, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. We have to approach a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service to him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Text 8 to 14 talks about devotional service. It is the goal of all spiritual practices. Text 8. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, being thus petitioned by the Prachetas, the supreme devotee Narada, who is always absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, began to reply. So here in this verse, Narada has been addressed as Bhagavan, and Prabhupada states, Narada has no other business than thinking of Krishna, talking of Krishna, preaching about Krishna. Therefore, he sometimes addressed as Bhagavan. And when a person possesses Bhagavan within his heart, he is also sometimes called Bhagavan. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Sakshadhari Tvena Samasta Shastriya. In every Shastra, the spiritual master is accepted directly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is accepted. Why? Because he possesses the Supreme Personality Godhead within his heart constantly. So that's why Prabhupada also warns us that you should not consider an impostor a Bhagavan. Text 9. The great sage Narada said, when a living entity is born to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme controller, his birth, all his fruitive activity, his lifespan, his mind and his words are all factually perfect. So here Prabhupada says that Narada Muni, he is speaking mainly about the human birth. That human birth is a very rare opportunity we get. So those who are in advanced in spirit, and actually and people who have got a human birth and they are advanced in spiritual consciousness, they are called Aryans. But Aryans also, one who engages in the devotional service of the Lord, his life is successful. So Prabhupada says the lower animals are not expected to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:20-17, it says, Nvehamadhyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam gurukarnadharam mayanukulena nabhasvateritam puman bhavadim natare saatmaha. The translation is very beautiful. The human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat having the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of the personality of God as favorable winds impelling on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. Prabhupada in the purport, he also states about religion. It is stated that birth is successful if an interest is there in Krishna consciousness taken. Activity is successful if it results in serving the Lord. When the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, when it is bhakti or devotional service. And Prabhupada says the current civilization, people are interested only in economic development. They are no longer interested in advancing in God consciousness. That's what Prahlad Maharaj says, Kaumared Asharet Pragyo. At the age of 5 years old, one should start developing Krishna consciousness. 431.10. A civilized human being has 3 kinds of birth. The first birth is by pure father and mother, and this birth is called birth by semen. The next birth takes place when one is initiated by the spiritual master, and this birth is called Savitra. The third birth is Yagyaika, takes place when one is given the opportunity to worship Lord Vishnu. Despite the opportunities for attaining such births, even if one gets the lifespan of a demigod, if one does not actually engage in the service of the Lord, everything is useless. Similarly, one's activities may be mundane or spiritual, but they are useless if they are not meant for satisfying the Lord. Very wonderful verse. And Prabhupada in this verse quotes about the Garbhadhana Samskara. Normally in the higher caste, the Garbhadhana Samskara takes place, but currently in this Kali Yuga, nobody is doing Garbhadhana Samskaras. It is only, and that's why they say Kali Yuga, everybody is a Shudra. So, but Prabhupada gives that in our Krishna conscious movement, we adopt the Pancharatrika Vidhi as advised by Sanatana Goswami, where a verse he has quoted, which means actually a bell metal when fixed with mercury is transformed to gold. A person, even though not golden, pure, can be transformed into a Brahmana Dvija simply by the initiation process. Hari Bhakti Vilasa 2.12. So, in our Krishna conscious movement, we see that unless one person is twice initiated, first by chanting of Hare Krishna, which I already stated in the translation, second by the Gayatri Mantra, he is not allowed to enter the kitchen or the deity room to execute duties. Prahlad Maharaj has said, Vipra Dvishat Guna Yutat Aravinda Nabha Pada Ravinda Vimukacha Pavam Varishtam, where it states, even one is a Brahmana, qualified with all Brahminical qualification, he is considered degraded if he is averse to worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if a person is attached to the service of the Lord, he becomes glorified, even if he is born in a Chandala family. Indeed, such Chandala family can deliver not only himself, but his predecessors. Prabhupada also says that by birth one does not become Brahmana. One has to have the qualities of the Brahmana. Given an example, this doctor's son cannot become a doctor unless he qualifies for it. So, a living entity is an eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord, and unless he comes to the platform of devotional service, his lifespan of good birth, glorious activity, everything else are null and void. Text 11. Without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerity, the process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses? Prabhupada has quoted a verse from Mundaka Upanishads where it says, our relationship with the Supreme Lord is never advanced by simple study of Vedas. There are many Mayavadi sannyasis fully engaged in studying the Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, Upanishads. Unfortunately, they cannot grasp the real essence of knowledge. We all know this verse 15:15. Vedesha sarve ahameva vedyo. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. And Prabhupada also stated there are so many religious systems where penances and austerities are there, but they do not understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what is the use of such tapasya? So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be understood through the process of only devotional service. Prabhupada also warned that there are so many professional reciters in Bhagavatam, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, but they cannot impress upon the audience because they do not have the real knowledge. Then Prabhupada also quotes for the certain futures, certain animals they have, like a hawk can see the dead body from a very great distance. Dog can smell a very great from a very great distance. Fish becomes alert of its enemy by sound. But if one's senses cannot help attain the highest perfection of life, realization of the Supreme, they are all useless. Next one. Transcendental practices that do not ultimately help one realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. are useless, be they mystic yoga practice, the analytical study of matter, severe austerity, the acceptance of sannyas, or the study of Vedic literature. All these may be very important aspect of spiritual advancement, but unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, all these processes are useless. So Prabhupada quotes a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita which says, Bhakti vina kevale jnane mukti nohi hoye, bhakti sadhana korei prapta brahma loye. So impersonalists do not take to devotional service, but they take to other practices such as analytical study of material element and discrimination between matter and spirit, and the mystic yoga system. These are beneficial as long and they are complementary to, as long as if they are not complementary to devotional service. So very nice example we can quote is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had visited Varanasi, where he met the great impersonalist Prakashananda Saraswati. And in the conversation between them, it's a long conversation you can have anytime, but this I'll give you in a brief, where it says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked why you are not studying the Vedanta Sutra, why you are dancing in the streets and like a madman. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replies that I am a great fool. I have been told by my spiritual master only to chant the Harinam and dance. So then he said, I chant the holy name of Hari and I am now mad after this holy name. Whenever I utter the holy name, I forget myself completely and sometimes I laugh, cry, dance like a madman. Therefore, I asked my spiritual master about it. He informed me that this was the real effect of chanting the holy name, which produces a transcendental emotion that is a rare manifestation. It is a sign of love of God, which is the ultimate goal of life. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also has in the purport itself, where he has said to Sanatan Goswami that without the touch of devotional service, Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, philosophy cannot give one desired results. Mayavadis also chant the Hare Krishna, but their goal is to merge into the Brahman effulgence. And that's what Prabhupada concludes, that in all the processes, karma, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga is required. That is the purport of this verse. Text 13. Factually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all self-realization. Consequently, the goal of all auspicious activities, karma, jnana yoga, and bhakti is the personality of Godhead. The living entity is pure as a sorry. So here Prabhupada he says that one must understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead is factually the original source of matter and spirit. Prabhupada quotes the words from 7.4 where he says the earth, water, fire, ether, mind, religion, false ego, all together are 8 comprises by separated material energies, but besides this inferior energy, mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind which consists of all living entity who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. So Prabhupada says that factually there is no difference between the energy and energetic. The duty of a living entity is to understand his real identity. And when he does, he gives him all facilities to come to the platform of devotional service. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. Tesham satatai muktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadhami buddhi yogam tam yena mama upayanti te. Those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So unless one comes to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, self-realization or realization of the absolute truth cannot be achieved. That is the conclusion of this verse. Text 14 is very important. We may all be knowing, but it's very important even to recite the verse. यथा तरोर्मूलनिषेचनेन तृप्यन्ति तत्स्कन्दभुजोपशाखा प्राणोपहारा च यतेन्द्रियाणां तथैव सर्वारणमच्युतेज. As pouring of water on the root of the tree energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything else, and as supplying food to the stomach and livens the senses and limbs of the body, simply worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods who are parts of that Supreme Personality. So it's a normally people are of worship the demigods, and they challenge why we should worship Krishna alone, why we should exclude the demigods. So Prabhupada says the answer is given in this verse. Pouring of water on the root of a tree is very appropriate. Then Bhagavad Gita says, Aham sarvasya prabho, I am the source of all spiritual and material world. Krishna is the root of everything. Therefore, rendering service to the Supreme Personality of God, it means automatically serving all the demigods. Then Prabhupada says that they are saying also to some people, they will come and ask us why I can worship Krishna as well as the demigods also. So the answer is also given in this verse. The point is that supplying food to the stomach, the indriyas, the senses are automatically satisfied. If one tries to feed his eyes or separately, it will create a havoc. Simply by supplying food to the stomach, we satisfy all of the senses. It is neither feasible nor it is neither necessary nor feasible to render separate service to the individual senses. Serving the Lord Krishna Seva, everything is complete. Chaitanya Charitamrita also says, Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarvakrita Karma Krita Hoye. If one is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of God, everything is automatically accomplished. Text 15 to 17 basically supports that everything is coming from Krishna and everything goes back to Him directly. These are the verses, text 15 to 17. Text 15, during the rainy season, water is generated from the sun, and in the due course of time, during the summer season, the very same water is again absorbed by the sun. Similarly, all the living entity, moving and inert, are generated from the earth, and again after some time, they all return to the earth as dust. Similarly, everything emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and due course of time, everything enters into Him again. So, Prabhupada, his favorite is he talks about the impersonalist philosophers who cannot understand that everything comes from the Supreme Person and then merges to Him. That's why he says, Brahma Samhita is quoting, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Koti Swasesha Vasudha Vibhuti Bhinnam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Ananta Asesha Bhutam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Translation goes, transcendental rays emanate from the body of Krishna, and within those rays, which are the Brahman effulgence, everything is existing. And this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9. Matstani Sarva Bhutani. Although Krishna is not personally present everywhere, his energy, cause of all creation, the entire cosmic manifestation, nothing but display of Krishna's energy. Prabhupada gives the example that the vegetables, they are also grown, but they grow and they are merged into they come from earth and again they merge into the earth. So the total material energy is generated from the body of Krishna, and at the time of cosmic manifestation, it is visible and then it dissolved. When it also get into Krishna itself. So Prabhupada gives one more example. He says, during the rainy seasons, vegetables grow, man and animals to obtain living energy. When there is no rain, animals they die, animals and man they die due to scarcity of food. All the vegetables as well as the living entity, products of earth, and again they merge into earth. So here in this verse, the entire material creation from the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at the time of annihilation, it enters into Him. This process of creation and dissolution is made possible by the breathing of Mahavishnu, who is the plenary portion of Krishna. Text 16. Just as the sunshine is non-different from the sun, the cosmic manifestation is also non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality is therefore all-pervasive within the material creation. When the senses are active, they appear to be a part and parcel of the body, but when the body is asleep, their activities are unmanifest. Similarly, the whole cosmic creation appears different yet non-different from the Supreme Person. In this verse, Prabhupada says that this is the famous philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva, simultaneously one and different. So the Supreme Personality is simultaneously different and non-different. He gives the example of the sun, sun rays, sun disk. They all look similar, but they have different. They are not the same. So that's what he wants to explain in this verse. Prabhupada also says that where he says one more thing is Krishna is the cause of all causes and the effects are permitted by the original cause. The entire cosmic manifestation should be understood as the expanded energy of the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada actually in the translation has given the same thing, which is also mentioned in the purport of Srila Prabhupada. When one sleeps, the senses are inactive. But this does not mean that the senses are absent. When one is awakened, the senses become active again. So, to conclude, whether the cosmic manifestation is active or inactive, the energy of the Supreme Lord is always existing. Text 17. My dear King, sometimes in the sky there are clouds, sometimes there is darkness, sometimes there is illumination. The appearance of all these take place consequently. Similarly, the Supreme Absolute, the modes of passion, ignorance, darkness and goodness appear as consecutive energies. Sometimes they appear, sometimes they disappear. Prabhupada in the purport, he says that darkness, illumination sometimes appear, sometimes disappear, but they have, the potency is still there, it does exist. Prabhupada quotes a verse from from Bhagavad Gita: earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, all together these comprises my material energy. So he also quotes the verse Janmadi Yasya Yataha, the creation, maintenance, dissolution, cosmic manifestation are due to the existence of the Supreme Lord. But the Lord is unaffected by these changes in the material elements. The sun always shines brilliantly and is not affected by the clouds or darkness. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of God is always present in a spiritual energy and is not affected by the material emanation. Brahma Samhita states, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna is the shelter of everything, and this is the verdict of all scriptures. Prabhupada quotes a very nice example of the potter, where it says the earth present in the wheel is not the cause of all the pots, but it is actually the original cause is the potter who supplies the earth, moves the wheel. Maya Dakshina Prakriti Suyate Sa Characharam. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and producing all moving and non-moving. The Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes. Coming to text 18 to 22, it tells to satisfy the all-powerful Lord is only by devotional service. Text 18 talks, because the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes, He is the super soul of all individual living entity. He exists as both the remote and immediate cause. Since He is aloof from the material emanation, He is free from their interaction and the Lord of material nature, and is the Lord of material nature. You should therefore engage in His devotional service, thinking yourself qualitatively one with Him. Srila Prabhupada in the purports, he says there are three causes of creation. One is time, ingredient, and the creator. Combined, these are called Tritiyatmaka, the three causes. So everything in this material world is created by these three causes. And all the causes are found only in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why Narad Muni is advising the Prachetas to worship the direct cause. That's what we saw in the Yatha Taror Mula Nishechanena, where it says instead of watering each place, you water the root, then automatically you are satisfying everything. That's what Narada Muni is saying. One should directly engage in the devotional service. This will include all pious activity. Chaitanya Charitamrita quotes, Krishna Bhakti koile sarvakrita karmakrita hoye. When worships the Supreme Lord Krishna, devotional service, one automatically performs all other pious activity. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is never affected by material qualities, although they all emanate from His spiritual energy. Those who are really conversant with this knowledge can utilize everything for the service of Lord. Nothing in this material world is unconnected with the Supreme Personality of God. That's a punch. Text 19 is a very important. It's also Dayaha Sarva Bhuteshu Santushta Ena Kenava Sarvendriya Upashantaya Cha Tushyanti Ashu Janardanaha. By showing mercy to the all living entity, being satisfied somehow or other, and restricting the senses from sense enjoyment, one can very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana. Or Maharaj quoted, actually gave an acronym. You all want MSc qualification, so this is the best way to get this qualification. First, M. M stands for mercy to the all living entity. S stands for satisfied in any circumstances. C stands for controlling the senses. MSC. Merciful to all living entities, satisfied and controlling the senses. How can we be merciful to the living entity? Srila Prabhupada says that the best way is to spread this Krishna conscious movement. Actually, learned, advanced spiritual understanding should preach Krishna consciousness all over the world. That's what it should be. That's how we can be merciful. Srila Prabhupada then quotes a verse from Bhagavad Gita. One should not be eager to gather more and more material goods by unnecessary activity. That's why you can be satisfied when you are satisfied. You can be satisfied when we are satisfied with whatever you content with, whatever you have. One should be satisfied with whatever is obtained by the grace of the Supreme Lord. And satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from the thoughts of sense enjoyment. The best way is to divert the mind to Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories as in Puranas and Mahabharata. And senses, to control senses, we all know it is not feasible, and that's what in 2.6 it says, senses are so strong that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. In the purport you would have seen for Durvasa Muni and Menaka, these are all how they were so, but they were not able to control the senses. But Prabhupada says, if the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely intelligence, mind, senses, will automatically be engaged. Text 20. Being completely cleansed of all material desires, the devotees are freed from all mental contamination. Thus they can always think of the Lord constantly and address Him very feelingly. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing Himself to be controlled by His devotee, does not leave them for a second. Just as the skies overhead never becomes invisible. So here Prabhupada says, Supreme Personified Godhead is very quickly satisfied by the activities of His devotees. The pure devotees, they are always engaged in what? Shanvatam Swakataha Krishna. By always thinking of Krishna, pure devotees' heart is freed from all kinds of desires. The mind needs to be clean, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam, to be clean, by attain the perfectional stage. Then the yogi always sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart. Once the Lord is seated in the heart, the devotee cannot be contaminated by the modes of material nature. All the material desires will be vanished. When the mind is completely free from material desire, the devotee can think of Lord constantly. In this way, one becomes completely dependent on the lotus feet of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he quoted, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Ma Vishame Bhavambudo Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sutadhuri Sadrisham Vichanteya. My dear Lord, I am your eternal servitor, but somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of material world. Kindly pick me up and fix me as a speck of a dust at your lotus feet. Shiksha Ashtakam, text 5. Similarly, Narottam Das Thakur also has in his song, he says, Aha Prabhu Nanda Sutta, Vrishabhanu Sutta Yuta, Karuna Kore Bar, Narottam Dasa Koe, Natheliya Ranga Pae, Toma Bina Ke Ache, Aman, Toma Bina Ke Ache, Aman. Translation says, My dear Lord, you are now present with the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, Srimati Radhanani. Now both of you please be merciful upon me. Don't kick me away from, because I have no other shelter other than you. So Krishna also enjoys being dependent on his devotee. Just he has enjoyed being dependent on the mercy of the mother, Yashoda. We saw all the pastime of, just now we had last month, Damodar Leela, where Krishna was so much dependent on his mother, Yashoda. Thinking himself dependent on the devotee gives supreme Lord enjoyment. And Prabhupada quotes that normally a king appoints a joker in the assembly of the joker. The joker may pull out the king himself, but a king enjoys to be pulled by the joker. So in this way, the relationship eternally existing between the Lord and his devotee is fixed, just like the sky in the overhead. Text 21. The Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes very dear to those devotees who have no material possessions, but are fully happy in possessing the devotional service of the Lord. Indeed, the Lord relishes the devotional activity of such devotee. Those who are puffed up with material education, wealth, aristocracy, fruitive activity are very proud of possessing material things. They often deride the devotees. Even if such people offer the Lord worship, the Lord never accepts them. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna does not accept the offering of those who are not devotees. A pure devotee is one who feels he does not possess any material thing. That's what Kunti Maharani in her prayers says. Janmaishwarya Shruta Shri Bhire Damana Madapuman Naivarhati Abhidatum Vai Twamakinchana Gocharam. My dear Lord, your lordship can be easily approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. So devotee is always happy in possessing devotional service of the Lord. We all know the pastime in the Chaitanya Bhagavata, which is mentioned about the Kovalecha Sridhara and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How Kovalecha Sridhar was a very poor. He didn't have anything. He was selling the banana donnai, banana leaves, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to have dealings with him. It was there very nicely mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavata. And he was so poor, he didn't have anything. He was living in a very depleted condition. But then too, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to like and go and drink water from his pot. And moreover, in the night time it is said that Kovalecha Sridhar used to chant very loudly. People used to think that he doesn't have money, that's why he is chanting, he is hungry, and that's why he is chanting so loudly. But here Prabhupada says, devotees are free from attached to family, society, friendship, children, and so on. So they always are happy in possessing the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. The Supreme Personality understands the position of his devotee. The Supreme Lord never excuses one who offends a pure devotee. So we have to be very careful that we should not offend a devotee. We all know the story of Durvasa Muni and Amrisha Maharaja. So if you are in the path of liberation, you should be very careful and not to offend a pure devotee. Text 22. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is self-sufficient, he becomes dependent on his devotee. He does not care for the goddess of fortune, nor for the kings or the demigods who are after the favors of the goddess of fortune. Where is that person who is actually grateful and will not worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead? We all know that Prabhupada has quoted in this Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is worshipped by materialistic men, including king, demigods. But Lakshmi is always after the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though he does not require his service. This states that personality of God out of costless mercy becomes dependent on devotees. So how fortunate is a devotee who is thus favored by the personality of Godhead. A devotee cannot forget the obligation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead even for a single moment. That's what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that both the Supreme Lord and devotees are rasagya, full of transcendental humor. So the mutual attachment between the Supreme Lord and the devotee is never to be considered material. It always is a transcendental fact. Like it is said, a mother towards a child. Mother, she does so many things, but she does not expect anything from her child. It is natural, and that's what it is said. Factually, such attachment is natural both for the Supreme Lord and for the devotee, and it cannot be accepted as material. Text 23. The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear King Vidura, Sri Narada Muni, the son of Lord Brahma, thus described all the relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the Prachetas. Afterward, he returned to Brahma Loka. Prabhupada in the purport says that one has to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from a pure devotee. And Prachetas, they got this opportunity to hear from great sage Narada, who told the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. Text 24. Hearing from Narada mouth the glories of the Lord, which vanquishes all the infortune of the world, the Prachetas also became attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Meditating on his lotus feet, they advanced to the ultimate destination. So here it is stated that hearing the glories of the Lord from a realized devotee, Prachetas, they got attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, at the end of their lives, they advance to the ultimate goal, Vishnu Loka. That's what Bhagavad Gita says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi kaunteye mame ve vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me, thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you, because you are my very dear friend. Text 25. My dear Vidura, I have told you everything you wanted to know about the conversation between Narada and Prachetas. The conversation describing the glories of the Lord, I have related this as far as possible. So here Maitreya is concluding that I have explained to you everything about them. Whenever there is a glorification of the Lord, there will be glorification of devotee. That's what Maitreya Muni in the third canto, 6th chapter, 36th verse, it says, in spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from my spiritual master, whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing the glorification of the Lord by pure speech. For otherwise, my power of speaking would remain unchaste. Text 26. Sukadeva Goswami continued, O best of the king, Parikshit, I have now finished telling about the descendant of the first son of Swayambhu Manu, Uttanapad. I shall now try to relate the activities of the descendant of Priyavrta, the second son of Swayambhu Manu. Please hear them attentively. So here Shukdev Goswami is desiring to describe the descendant of Maharaj Priyavrata, the second son of Swayambhu Manu. That's what will be the next discourse. And text 27, where he says that Maharaj Priyavrata received the instructions from the great sage Narada. He still engaged the ruling of earth. After fully enjoying the material portion, he divided his property among his sons. He then attained a position by which he could return home back to Godhead. So Prabhupada, he says, this not text 28. My dear king, in this way, after hearing the transcendental message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees from the great sage Maitreya, Vidura was overwhelmed with ecstasy. With tears in his eye, he immediately fell down at the lotus feet of his Guru, his spiritual master. He then fixed the Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of his heart. So this is what you get effect of associating with a great devotee. A devotee takes instructions from a liberated soul and thus overwhelmed ecstasy by transcendental leisure. To become a perfect devotee, one has to touch the lotus feet of the great devotee. And in the process of realization, the path of going back to Godhead, one has to surrender to the bona fide spiritual master, take his dust on his lotus feet on one head. So that's how Vidura and Maitreya's relationship was established. Text 29. Sri Vidura said, O mystic, great mystic, O greatest of all devotees, by your costless mercy, I have been on the path of liberation from this world of darkness. By following this path, a person liberated from material world can return home back to Godhead. So Prabhupada says this material world is tamaha and spiritual world is full of light. So everyone wants to get out of the darkness and go to the kingdom of light. And this information where we can obtain through the mercy of the spiritual master we can obtain. And as soon as one frees himself from the material desires and associates with the liberated person, the path to back to Godhead is clear. So it's very easy to go back just by taking association of devotees and going, and mainly with instruction of following the instructions of the spiritual master. Text 30. Sukadeva Goswami continued. Vidura thus offered obeisances unto the great sage Maitreya. Taking his permission, started for the city of Hastinapur to see his own kinsman, although he had no material desires. So here Prabhupada says that Vidura departed to Hastinapur after taking permission from his spiritual master, and so that he can deliver his brother Dhritarashtra. And Prabhupada says that when a saintly person like Vidura sees his relatives, his desire is only to deliver from the clutches of Maya. And that's what actually he wants to instruct us, that whenever we meet our relatives, we should also be following like that. Text 31. O king, those who hear these topics about the kings who are completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead obtain without difficulty a long life, wealth, good reputation, good fortune, and ultimately the opportunity to return home back to Godhead. The sense of Bhaktivedanta purport of the fourth canto, 31st chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Narada instructs the Prachetas. Hare Krishna, Prabhujis and Matajis. That's what in this chapter it has fully described by Narada Muni instructing the Prachetas. Whatever Srila Prabhupada had quoted, I have just repeated the same words. So if anybody, Prabhuji, wants to add anything, or they can surely add to it. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam.
Yes.
This is the first time I came to know the actual meaning of MSc. All I was knowing was Master of Science, Master of Science. But today you gave the real acronym for MSc. You told S is for the satisfaction of all circumstances, satisfaction in all circumstances. Can you just, when we are satisfied in all circumstances, people label us as complacent. You have become complacent. So, what is the difference between being complacent and satisfaction in all circumstances? Hare
See,
Krishna.
that's what Prabhupada actually has given. Actually, if you had remember that Prabhupada has quoted that you have to be. See, we normally try to gather more and more because we think we want to satisfy our senses. No, that's our main goal. So we want to gather more and more. By like working, I give you an example like working whole time in a company where if you're earning some 10,000, there are 10,000 rupees, but you want to earn more and more so that I can build a big building, I can be happy. In this material world, whatever you do, you cannot be you can never satisfy. First thing, you can never satisfy your bosses. First thing, we try to satisfy our bosses. That is not possible, practically not possible. Every time we but if you want to if you satisfy Krishna, he will be satisfied. He can satisfy everybody. So that's why the first thing we should satisfy him. So the goal, we should try to focus more time on Krishna wherever is possible. Whenever is, that's what actually our Guru Maharaj used to say, that you should steal time to even to read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And it's not possible. Otherwise, in this material life, we are so occupied that we do not have time to read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. But we have to steal the time. We have to take out time and then do. So that's why it is not just, you will be finding it, the materialistic people will always try to pull you out and say that you should spend more time with us, more time in material life. But whereas it is not necessary. If your time spent on Krishna, it will be more effective. So we have to take out the time and do the seva like that. I
Thank you,
hope,
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
yeah, I hope I have whatever little knowledge I have given.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandvat Pranam. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you for a wonderful class, Prabhuji.
Mataji, whatever Prabhupada has said, I have just repeated the same words. I have just put all everything. Normally, if you think it's a class is if you just take two verses, whereas like Yatha Taror Mula Nishechanena, and
Yes,
you take
Prabhuji.
the MSc verse. If you
Yes.
that is this is what I actually have just given whatever flavor from Srila Prabhupada purports, and that's how I have repeated the same thing. And just thank you very much.
That motivates me. I'll open my book and read these two verses, Prabhuji, and whatever you have taught. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare
Yeah, it's a
Krishna.
beautiful actually. This chapter is very really beautiful. I actually thank Prabhuji for giving me this opportunity for preaching here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for your association, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna. Thank
Krishna,
you.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhu.
Thank you, devotees. Thank you for joining for today's class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna to all devotees present.